So dear students, as you are aware that a very large scale uprising or revolt against the British Raj took place in the year 1857. So this is also known as the first war or first organized war of Indian independence. So let us study the history of this great revolt of 1857. So in this lecture, we would be covering what were the reasons which led to this revolt, what were the main events that occurred during this time period, and also the impact of the revolt. So let us see. The Indian Mutiny of 1857 to 59. So it was not a 1 year event. It lasted for 2.5 years. So this was a widespread but unsuccessful rebellion, because we know that India got freedom only in 1947 and this revolt took place 90 years ago in 1857. So obviously it was unsuccessful to achieve the freedom. So it was the first organized countrywide resistance against the British Raj. So earlier we saw that revolts taking place locally, region wise. Some revolt taking place in Bengal, some taking place in Punjab, but there was never a revolt before 1857 which spread to large areas. So this was a revolt which can be said to be countrywide, because many major parts or many major cities of that time, they revolted. So it began as a mutiny of Indian soldiers working in East India Company's army. So how did this revolt start? So this revolt was actually started by the Indian people who were working in British army. But soon many princely states, jamindars and common mass also joined this revolt. So though it was started by Indian soldiers, or you can say British Indian soldiers, because they were working and being paid by the British Indian troops, they started this. But once the revolt was started, many princely states, jamindars and common people also joined hands. So that's why this revolt is known by several names. The most commonly used names are Sepoy Mutiny. So Sepoy Mutiny is the term used by British historians, because for them Indians were their sepoys and it was started by them. So they name it as Sepoy Mutiny or rebellion of the soldiers. Whereas the other historians like to call it Indian Mutiny. I mean, it is not the mutiny of only sepoys. Entire India was involved. So it is also known as Indian Mutiny or the Great Rebellion or the Revolt of 1857 or the Indian Insurrection. Now you have to remember this key fact. This Revolt of 1857 was given the name the First War of Independence by freedom fighter Vinayak Damodar Savarkar. So he was a leader of Hindu Mahasabha. So question is asked that who gave the term First War of Independence to the revolt of 1857? So the answer would be Vinayak Damodar Savarkar. So what were the causes of the revolt? So the causes of the revolt can be grouped or studied under different heads. There were some political causes, there were some economic causes, there were social religious causes, historic causes and external influence, military and immediate causes. So let's see what were the economic causes. So the first and foremost economic cause was the destruction of agriculture. So there was a severe deterioration of Indian agriculture as the farmers were forced to pay more and more taxes, so it broke their backbone. So as the land levies were major source of revenue, the British wanted to extract as much as possible, because what was the major source of revenue for British? Taxes. Who will pay these taxes? Farmers will pay. Farmers will pay to Jamindar, Jamindars will pay to British. So ultimately farmers will pay, local merchants will pay, small scale merchants will pay, factory workers will pay, all these will pay taxes. So Britishers wanted to extract as much tax as possible from these people. So these people became poorer and poorer. So this caused poor farmers, causing their impoverishment. Land levies left no savings with the cultivators. So they were not able to invest in the advancement of agriculture. So after paying taxes, farmers were left with no money. So if you don't have money, then how can you invest that money into farming? To do farming, you need money. You need to buy seeds, you need to buy fertilizers and all that stuff. But now you don't have money, you have to pay taxes. All your money is spent in paying taxes. So that's why you cannot invest money in agriculture, which led to destruction of agriculture. Also, farmers were forced to grow commercial crops like cotton and indigo instead of food crops like rice and wheat. See, the British were pure businessmen. So they knew that demand of cotton and indigo was great in Europe, and that's why they forced Indian farmers to grow cotton and indigo, and these were bought by the Britishers at cheap rates and sold at higher rates in European markets. So Indian farmers wanted to grow rice and wheat for their families, but now they are forced to grow cotton and indigo. So all these factors are making the farmers unhappy and have led to the destruction of agriculture. So this led to 12 major famines. Famines means what? There is no rainfall, there is no food to eat, no food grains to eat. Agriculture is destroyed. So 12 major famines in India between 1770 and 1857. So all these created or built up great anger amongst the farmer community. The next economic cause was permanent settlement system. So in 1793, Lord Cornwallis introduced the system of permanent settlement. Permanent settlement is also known as Jamindari system. So what was this Jamindari system? All the lands of the farmers and common people, they were taken from them and given to Jamindars. Jamindars were asked to collect taxes from that land and give it to British people. So common farmers and common peasants, their land is gone, taken away, and all of a sudden new class of people known as Jamindars have been created. So cultivators were reduced to that of the tenants. So those people who were earlier the owners of these lands, so now they become tenants of Jamindars. So now they are under Jamindars. So this is a great tragedy. This is unfair. Why did the British do this to them? So also the tax charged from the farmers, was exorbitantly high and exploitative. So this led to the oppression of the cultivators at the hands of the company and Zamindars. So after this permanent settlement, these farmers suffered a great deal. Now their land is also gone, and now they have to pay large amount of taxes. So they are also having hatred for Britishers as well as Jamindars. But these Jamindars were also not happy. So Jamindars were also under tremendous pressure to pay certain revenue to East India Company, because East India Company have fixed a target. They have to meet fixed targets. Targets of what? Revenue collection. So Jamindars were also under pressure, and in case they could not pay this fixed monthly amount in form of revenue, their land or this Jamindar was removed and somebody else was made the Jamindars. So even Jamindars were under threat, and tenants were, of course, their freedom was gone, their land was gone. The next important cause was destruction of cottage industries. So the artisans, these workers, cottage industry means the small scale industry which people used to do or operate from within their houses. So the artisans were forced to sell their goods to British at cheaper prices. The East India Company dumped machine-made goods of London in Indian markets. The local factories were no match to London-made goods. So because machines were introduced after the Industrial Revolution in Europe, not in India. In India, people are still working from their hands. They are working, doing things manually on charkha. Whereas in Europe, machines are being used. So in Europe, same object is produced at cheaper price, cheaper rate. In India, same object will be produced at higher rate. So that's why what this East India Company did, they started dumping the machine-made goods of Europe in Indian markets. So consider two cloth made in London and cloth made in India. Which will be better? Cloth made in London will be better because it is made on machine. It will also be cheaper. So if two clothes are available in India, both clothes are available in India, this is better and cheaper, then why would anybody buy clothes made by Indians? So all these factors were creating damage to cottage industries. And apart from that, whatever these cottage industries used to produce, they were forced to sell their goods to British. They cannot sell it to somebody else. You have to sell it to British, and that too at cheaper price. The Britishers would then take these to Europe and sell at high prices. So exploitation. So the other factor was that due to annexation of princely states, the artisans and artists have lost patronage and financial supports. So these people, earlier they used to get financial supports from their kings and prince and whosoever was there in charge. But now all these people are gone. Zamindars have come. They only want taxes. So now they are not getting any kind of financial or moral support. So this is again a cause of resentment. Now what were the social causes? Till now we saw economic causes. That means causes that related to money matters. Now we will see what were the social causes. Racial discrimination. British had a deep-rooted feeling that they belonged to superior race. So you can see this, he's asking native Indians to carry him. So they used this. Britishers used to think that they are racially superior and Indians are inferior because they are black in color. So they used to justify the enslavement of Indians. So they used to say that we have come to India to make you civilized. You are uncivilized people. We are Europeans. We are civilized. So British prejudices resulted in ill treatment of people due to discrimination along racial lines. So Britishers were discriminating. It was common for British officers and police to hurl racial abuses on Indian people. No Indians were allowed to take a cream post or higher posts in British administrative setup. So all these were kind of discrimination. So if you are an Indian, you cannot become a top officer. You will be only given lower ranking jobs. Missionary activities. What is missionary? So missionary is, you can say, Christian mission to spread the religion. So British promoted missionary activities. So these were, religious teachers who used to come to India so that they can convert Indians into Christianity. So British promoted missionary activities in India because they believed that they are superior people, and they used to make fun of Indian religions. They used to call Indians superstitious. They used to call their religions like Hinduism and Islam and Sikhism. They used to make fun of that. So these missionaries often made fun of Indian religions and openly criticized them. So this angered the general public in India, for whom the religion was their most important identity. Even today, religion is a very sensitive issue for Indian society. So when these missionaries were making fun of Indian religions, the Indians could not tolerate. So this was also a reason of lot of anger being generated among general public. So there was a general feeling. So there were different kind of rumors. So there was a rumor that if you have to join British Army, you have to convert into Christianity. There were also rumors that once the states would be annexed, the entire state would be converted to Christianity, or mass conversion to Christianity would take place. So because of all these, people started to hate Britishers. The next social cause was the religious reforms. So the Britishers used to call Indians superstitious, and they brought many reforms so that the Indians could get rid of their those traditions which are not actually beneficial for the society. So British passed many acts in India to bring about which was against the religious practices of Hinduism and Muslims. So they brought about many religious reforms, such as abolition of sati pratha and abolition of child marriage, legalizing widow remarriage. All these things. Sati pratha was integral part of Hindu society. Child marriage was integral part of Hindu society. It was very, very common. Widow marriage was not allowed. It was not allowed in Hindu tradition. So now what Britishers have done, they are overturning these traditions. They are saying that no, sati pratha cannot be allowed, child marriage cannot be allowed, and even widows can marry again. So all these was hurting the religious feelings of Indians. So people considered this as interference in their faith. Of course they would. So you have to remember this fact, since we have discussed sati pratha. So please remember. So Governor General William Bentinck had abolished sati pratha in 1839. So this is commonly asked question. Who abolished sati pratha? William Bentinck. Who was he? He was the Governor General. Now let's see political causes. Till now we have seen economic causes, we have seen social causes. Now let's see what were the political causes. The first reason was subsidiary alliance. So what was subsidiary alliance? The British used to force the princely states to accept subsidiary alliance. So if a princely state used to force a subsidiary alliance, it meant that princely state have to dismantle its own army. So subsidiary alliance was introduced by Lord Wellesley in 1798, and Hyderabad was the first state to accept this. But what was subsidiary alliance? So if states accepted this alliance, they had to dismantle their own military. That means they had to remove all their soldiers, and British army would then put their own soldiers in the kingdom. That means the king will have no army of his own. Britishers will provide an army to support the king, and the entire expense of the British army will have to be taken care by that prince. So Awadh was forced into subsidiary alliance. The first state to accept a subsidiary alliance was Hyderabad. But problem started when Awadh was forced into subsidiary alliance. Why? Because if you accept subsidiary alliance, all your army people become jobless. The Indian people who were earlier part of the army are now jobless. So if they are jobless, they know how to fight, then obviously they will go and join the revolt. So Awadh was a large territory and most of the soldiers of Awadh became jobless. So Awadh had a huge army which was now jobless and full of hatred for the British. The most important, you can say, political cause was Dalhousie's policy of annexation. Annexation means to capture without fighting. Lord Dalhousie's rule is considered to be the most important factor that resulted in revolt. Why? Because Dalhousie introduced a controversial doctrine of lapse. So what was this doctrine of lapse? It basically meant that if a king dies and if a king has no natural son, the real son, so if he does not have a real son, the usual practice was that the kings used to adopt somebody so that after his death, that adopted son could take the throne. But what the Britishers did, or what Lord Dalhousie did as per the doctrine of lapse, that means no adopted son can become the next heir after his father is dead. That means adopted sons will not be given pension, nor will they be recognized as the king. Then what will happen to kingdom? The kingdom will then be taken over by the British. So many big and reputed kingdoms were usurped by the company because the king did not have a natural son. Hence, there was a lot of anger amongst princely states. So you can see Satara was the first state to be acquired through the policy of annexation. So you can see these big states. First was Satara, the next was Sambalpur, Udaipur, Nagpur and Jhansi. So what will happen if you annex these kingdoms this way? All their ex-kings and queens, they will become your enemies. So that is what happened. So problem started when Jhansi was annexed. The kingdom of Jhansi was subjected to the doctrine of lapse. So this she is the queen of Jhansi. So doctrine of lapse, when King Gangadhar Rao Nevalkar died without a male heir. So who was King Gangadhar Rao? So King Gangadhar was the king of Jhansi. So this king did not have a natural son, did not have a son. So he adopted a son. So when the king died, the king was promised that the Queen Lakshmi Bai will be allowed to rule. But the Britishers broke their promise. So neither the widow Queen Rani Lakshmi Bai nor her adopted son Damodar Rao was recognized as the successor to the throne of Jhansi. But the Britishers have promised to the king that, okay, if you do not have a son, we will allow your wife to become the ruler. But the Britishers broke that promise and also did not recognize Damodar Rao, of course, because doctrine of lapse does not recognize the adopted son. So that's why the queen of Jhansi, Rani Lakshmi Bai, participated or joined the revolt. So Jhansi was thus annexed in 1854. Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi was asked to vacate the palace. So if you are annexing Jhansi, it means you will take all the properties of Jhansi like palace, treasury, army, all the important buildings, everything will be taken control by the British. So once Jhansi, the decision to annex Jhansi has been taken, so the Britishers asked Rani Lakshmi Bai to leave the palace. You just leave the palace and go somewhere else because now you are not the queen. So Lakshmi Bai refused to vacate the palace, so resulting in a conflict with the British. So when she refused that, no, she said that मैं अपनी झांसी नहीं दूंगी. That means I will not give Jhansi to you. So these are our famous lines. Similarly, because of Lord Dalhousie's doctrine of lapse, there was a conflict with Nana Sahib of Kanpur. So who was Nana Sahib? He and his brother, I mean Nana Sahib and his brother were adopted by Peshwa. So who was the Peshwa? Peshwa was like the prime minister of Marathas. So Nana Sahib and his brother were adopted by the Peshwa. Nana Sahib's mother was Peshwa's sister-in-law. So his childhood friends were Tatya Tope and Manikarnika Tambe. So this Manikarnika Tambe was married into Jhansi and she became Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi. So please remember, Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi and Nana Sahib both knew each other. Both were Marathas by blood. They were from, their heritage was common. They were both Marathas. And also a third important figure, Tatya Tope. So Tatya Tope was basically the military general of Nana Sahib. So as kids, all these three personalities knew each other. Nana Sahib, Tatya Tope, Manikarnika Tambe, they were all Marathas. So once the Peshwa died, the British applied the doctrine of lapse because Peshwa died. Nana Sahib is his adopted son, not the original son. So the adopted son Nana Sahib was refused the pension. So Britishers told that now we are not going to give pension to you because you are adopted son and we don't recognize adopted son. So despite being stated as the heir in the will of Bajirao, Bajirao was the Peshwa who died, Bajirao too. So he has already mentioned in his will that once I die, my adopted son Nana Sahib should become the next Peshwa. But doctrine of lapse have been put into place. So there is a problem. Nana Sahib want to become Peshwa, but Britishers did not recognize him. So there is again a conflict. So this insult from the British led him to take part in the revolt of 1857. So slowly, gradually, more and more people have reasons to support the revolt. What were the military causes? Indian sepoys, you can say soldiers, sepoys. The Indian soldiers employed in the British army were never promoted above the rank of subedars. I mean, all the top positions, higher positions were reserved for British people. Indians were not promoted to high ranks. So sepoys were angry at this discrimination. So also British army generals, maintained on racial hatred towards the Indian soldiers because British army officers, they had feeling of racial superiority. They used to say that we are white, you are black, you are low level people. So there was also racial discrimination in the army. Also, there were some religious reasons because of which army people felt uncomfortable. See, Britishers were fighting many wars all over the world, and India was their biggest occupied territory. Biggest. They have even occupied Africa, but India, the territory occupied in India was way bigger occupied in Africa. So they used to recruit soldiers from India, and then they used to send these soldiers to fight in different countries. So if you are sending Indian soldiers to different countries, so it may happen that they have to travel by boat or travel by ships. But upper caste Hindus had a belief that if you take a sea voyage, suppose you have to go from India to, let's say, Malaysia that time, then obviously you have to take a ship, you have to travel by ocean. So there was a belief in upper caste Hindus that if you are traveling by ship on an ocean, your religion is corrupted, you are no more a Hindu. But British wanted these soldiers to go abroad and fight. So that is a problem. Soldiers do not want to travel over ocean. British generals and British administration want them to go to foreign countries. So again there is problem. Also, the sepoys or the soldiers were paid very low salary. So you can see even the Indians who are working in British army, they are not happy. And it is these British Indian soldiers who first started the revolt of 1857, and later on people like Rani Lakshmi Bai, Tatya Tope, all these joined later on. The Muslim soldiers were not allowed to keep beards. So you can see Muslims, as per their religion, they have to keep beard. So Muslim soldiers were not allowed to keep beards, and Hindu soldiers cannot put a tilak on their forehead. So it was an attack on the religious practices. These are not ordinary people. These are soldiers. They know how to fight. And now they are also full of hatred towards their own government, British government. What was the immediate cause? So this is really interesting. The revolt of 1857 actually broke out over the incident of greased cartridges. So this has been asked many times. What was the immediate reason? Why did all of a sudden entire country started the revolt? The reason was the incident of greased cartridges. So cartridges, bullets. So you can see this is the bullet, and if these are soldiers, so if this bullet is to be put into this gun, so it has to be first opened with the use of teeth. So a rumor was spread that the cartridges of the new Enfield rifles were greased with the fats of cows and pigs. So you can see, so upper coating was said to be made up of fat of cows and pigs. So Hindus do not eat cows. In fact, it is considered to be obnoxious. It is very defamatory if you ask a Hindu to eat cow meat. Similarly, it is very defamatory for Muslims if they even touch pigs. So now these soldiers, Indian soldiers who are working in British army, if they have to use this cartridge, so they will have to put this in their mouth. So if they put this in their mouth, they come into contact with cow and pig meat and fat, which is not a good thing as per their religious teachings. So both Hindus and Muslims thought this as an attack, as a deliberate attack on their religion. Also, there were rumors that all the troops will be converted to Christianity. So all these things made these soldiers very, very angry. So finally, the soldiers decided that we are not going to use this new cartridges. So they simply refused to use them. So now soldiers have already told their British officers that we are not going to use this new cartridge of Enfield rifle. New rifle was given to them, Enfield rifle, and their cartridges was problematic. So they told them that no, we are not going to use. So Lord Canning was the Governor General. You have to remember who was the Governor General when the revolt took place. He was Lord Canning. So Lord Canning tried to make amends for the error, and the offending cartridges were withdrawn, but the damage had already been done. So what did the Britishers do? They said that okay, what the Indian soldiers are telling is justified. Let's not hurt their religious sentiments. So the British government took back these cartridges, but till then the damage had already been done. So there was unrest in several places because these soldiers have thought that now we are not going to take any more insult. Look at these British people. They have no regard for our religion. So now the problem starts. In March 1857, Mangal Pandey, a sepoy or a soldier in Barakpur, had refused to use the cartridge and attacked his senior officers. So Mangal Pandey, you have to remember this name. He is known as first martyr of the revolt of 1857. So Mangal Pandey was the first soldier who said that no, I am not going to use these cartridges, and also attacked his officers because he wanted to take revenge of the insult. So where was he stationed, or where was he having a job? In the Barakpur cantonment. He was hanged to death on 8th of April. So on 9th of May, 85 soldiers in Meerut refused to use the new rifle and were sentenced to 10 years imprisonment. So now you can see the problem has just now started. British had no idea that it will result to a large scale revolt. But just understand, how did the revolt start? The revolt was started actually by this great soldier, great Indian son, Mangal Pandey, who was a sepoy in Barakpur cantonment. So after he was hanged on 8th of April, so 2 months later, same problem started in Meerut, because soldiers of Meerut, they also refused to use the cartridges, and 85 soldiers in Meerut were imprisoned. So British officers said that if you will refuse to use these cartridges, you will be put into jail for 10 years. Still, the soldiers of Meerut refused, and they were put into jail for 10 years. Let's see what happened next. So now problem has reached Meerut. So Meerut is very near to Delhi. So within few days, some sepoys of the regiment at Meerut refused to use the new cartridges. So 85 or 90 sepoys were immediately imprisoned and sentenced to 10 years in jail. So this incident took place on 9th May 1857. Mangal Pandey was hanged on 8th April. So you can understand how things progressed. 8th April, Mangal Pandey is hanged. 9th May, problem starts in Meerut. Next day, that is on 10th of May, the fellow soldiers, because 90 soldiers were put into jail, but other soldiers, what they did, they felt humiliated that how can our 90 friends be put into jail for 10 years, and that too for a justified cause. They are Hindus, they are Muslims. How can they eat cow and pig? So the remaining soldiers, they became very, very angry, and they marched to the jail and released the imprisoned sepoys. They released their friends. So once their friends were released, they started attacking the British officers who were present in the cantonment of Meerut. They captured guns and ammunition. So you can say that Meerut cantonment was totally taken over by Indian sepoys. They set fire to the buildings and properties of the British. They declared a war on the foreigners. They outrightly said that if any foreigner will come in front of our eyes, we are going to kill him. So foreigner means what? Britishers. So now you understand, problem has already started in Meerut. Meerut is totally captured by Indian sepoys. What happened next? So after creating mayhem in Meerut, the soldiers rode throughout the night of 10th May and reached Delhi the next morning, because Meerut and Delhi, I think they are hardly like 100 to 150 kilometers away. I mean, not even 100 kilometers, I guess. Some 60 to 80 kilometers. So within a night, these sepoys who had already captured Meerut, they reached Delhi. So when the regiments in Delhi heard the news, they also rose up in rebellion. So there were regiments at important places like Barakpur, Meerut, Delhi, because these were important cities. So these regiments or these soldiers basically were Indians. Their officers were Britishers. So when soldiers of or Indian soldiers of Delhi came to know that our brothers of Meerut are coming to Delhi and they have already captured Meerut, So these Indian soldiers of Delhi, they also became excited and they also rose up in rebellion. So these combined soldiers, soldiers of Meerut and soldiers of Delhi cantonment, they joined hands and gathered around Red Fort. What was Red Fort? Mughal emperor used to live there, Mughal emperor, and demanded to meet Bahadur Shah Jafar. So Mughal emperor during this revolt was Bahadur Shah Jafar. The emperor was hesitant, but the soldiers forced their way into the palace. So you can see initially the emperor did not want them to enter into the palace because they thought that he had no idea, and he was also afraid of British because he knew that we can never win against British. So earlier, initially, the emperor was not very excited, but he could not control the large number of soldiers that have gathered outside his fort. So ultimately, he allowed them to enter. So, but the soldiers forced their way into the palace. They convinced the old Mughal emperor to lend them moral support. So these soldiers came face to face with Bahadur Shah Jafar. Bahadur Shah Jafar told them that I am 82 years old. So Bahadur Shah Jafar was at that time already 82 years old. So he told them that I am already on my deathbed. I can die any given day. How can I become your leader? So these soldiers were basically telling that you are the emperor of entire country. You are the Mughal emperor. You just say from your mouth that you are our guardian. So we will win cities after city and we will make you the real emperor. So that is what the soldiers told Bahadur Shah Jafar. But Bahadur Shah Jafar was an intelligent person. He understood that these are just empty dreams. It is not easy to defeat the British. But still he cannot say no to that large force. So he said yes ultimately. So ultimately, Bahadur Shah Jafar was proclaimed as the leader, all India leader of the revolt of 1857. Why? Because he was the Mughal emperor. He was not an ordinary Nawab or Jamindar. He was the Mughal emperor. So these rebellions or these soldiers wanted to use him as a face of the revolt, because they can say that, okay, even the emperor's blessing is with us. So now stage is set. Bahadur Shah Jafar have said yes, that okay, I will act like your guardian. My blessings are with you. So what happens next? Now, till now, problem had started at Meerut, and these people from Meerut have reached Delhi. The remaining country is silent till now. But just after the Mughal emperor gave his consent, the problem or the revolt spread to the other parts of the countries as well. So let's see what were the major centers of revolt. So the first and foremost revolt will occur at Delhi only, because soldiers of Meerut have come to Delhi. So what happened in Delhi? The symbolic leadership obviously belonged to Emperor Bahadur Shah, but the real command on ground, it was the soldiers who were fighting, it was the military generals who were fighting, but the real command lay with the group of soldiers headed by General Bakht Khan. So whenever you read this, you have to understand who was the leader at which city. So city Delhi, who was the leader? Bakht Khan. So Bakht Khan had led the revolt of Bareilly and had brought his troops to Delhi. So you can see that troops from Meerut and troops from Bareilly had come to Delhi and joined hands. So the group from Bareilly was led by Bakht Khan, and it is this Bakht Khan who became in charge of the joint forces. So Bakht Khan was leading the revolt at Delhi. The rebels then began attacking company officials and looting bazaars. So what is the meaning of doing revolt? Do you sit at your home and do revolt or what? No. You obviously go out on streets, start attacking British administration, company officials and looting bazaars, because these bazaars were under control of British. So some company officers and civilians tried to take refuge, but they were slaughtered. So what happened? See, Delhi was not that important. Calcutta was important for Britishers. So Calcutta, most of the military and police force was located at Calcutta. So Delhi, Delhi was not that much guarded. It was lightly guarded. Very few soldiers were present at Delhi. So these officers and their family members were killed. Many hundred, Englishmen were killed in Delhi because Delhi was not that much guarded. Their entire focus of British administration was at Calcutta. They did not give much importance to Delhi. So those British officers who were present in 1857, most of them and their family members were killed. Sir John Lawrence sent a strong British force commanded by John Nicholson. So, while studying the revolt of 1857, you have to understand that city name, Indian leader, and British officer who controlled the revolt. So, who was the British officer who controlled the revolt of Delhi? His name was John Nicholson. So after a long siege of 4 months, the Nicholson recovered Delhi in September 1857 AD. So who was the leader? Leader was Bakht Khan. Who was the British in charge? John Nicholson. At which place? At Delhi. The Mughal Emperor Bahadur Shah Jafar was captured. His 2 sons and a grandson were shot dead. So because you see, he was not the one who had started the revolt. He had simply given his blessings to the revolt. So the Britishers thought that if we capture the emperor, the revolt will die. So what these Britishers did, that in September they captured the emperor, Mughal emperor, in front of his eyes. In front of his eyes, all his sons and grandsons were brought, and his 2 sons and a grandson was killed in front of his eyes only, to teach him a lesson. And he was sent to Rangoon. Rangoon is today's Myanmar. So Rangoon was the capital of Burma then. So today Burma is known as Myanmar, and both Burma and India were under British control. So he was sent to Rangoon, where he died in the year 1862. That means he remained out of India for 5 years, and ultimately he died in Burma itself. So after the British occupation of Delhi in September 1857, Bakht Khan, who was Bakht Khan? He was the actual military commander on ground. So Bahadur Shah Jafar did not fight with sword. He was staying in his palace, but the real fighting was done by Bakht Khan. So Bakht Khan went to Lucknow when this Bahadur Shah was captured, and he continued to fight the British till he died in a battle on 13th May 1859. So the Emperor Bahadur Shah was perhaps the weakest link in the chain of leadership of revolt, because initially he was not very enthusiastic about the revolt. So Delhi, we understood what happened at Delhi. Now let's understand what happened at Kanpur. So what was the problem at Kanpur? Nana Sahib. So Kanpur was totally under control of, used to be under control of Marathas, but because of doctrine of lapse, problem have started. So Nana Sahib expelled the English from Kanpur with the help of sepoys and proclaimed himself as Peshwa, because he was the adopted son of Peshwa Baji Rao II. So now he got the opportunity to fulfill his dream. So he proclaimed himself as Peshwa. Nana Sahib acknowledged Bahadur Shah as the Emperor of India and declared himself to be his governor. On behalf of Nana Sahib, the battle was led by his loyal general Tatya Tope. So just like emperors don't fight, their military commanders fight. So Peshwa will not fight. Peshwa's military commander will fight. So what was the name of that military commander? Tatya Tope. So Tatya Tope was his childhood friend. He was very loyal towards his Peshwa. So Sir Hugh Wheeler was defeated and surrendered before Tatya Tope. So Kanpur, the British in charge of Kanpur was Hugh Wheeler. So he was defeated. So if he is defeated, the Britishers send a new officer. The revolt was suppressed by British General Colin Campbell. So it is important, leaders from both sides, from Indian side and from British side. From Indian side, Nana Sahib and Tatya Tope. From British side, Colin Campbell. Because Wheeler is already defeated. Nana Sahib escaped to Nepal, but Tatya Tope continued his struggle. Tatya Tope went to Gwalior to help Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi. We will see. So Nana Sahib escaped, but the military commander Tatya Tope is still continuing the fight. Tatya Tope was finally defeated, arrested and hanged. So you can see gradually, one by one, we are covering the important revolt centers. We understood what happened in Delhi. We understood what happened in Kanpur. Now let's see what happened in Jhansi. The 22-year-old Rani Lakshmi Bai led the rebels of Jhansi. A group of rebels attacked the British officers who were in charge of the Star Fort of Jhansi, and 40 Britishers were killed. Because the Britishers have asked Rani Lakshmi Bai to vacate the palace of Jhansi. Because, see, this is Rani Lakshmi Bai's adopted son. So Rani Lakshmi Bai wanted her son to be recognized as the king of Jhansi. But Britishers did not allow that, and they asked both mother and son to leave the palace. They refused to leave the palace. So the citizens of Jhansi were supporting their queen. So what did the citizens of Jhansi do? They attacked the British officers who were in charge of Star Fort, because Britishers have already taken control of the fort. So common people of Jhansi, they entered the fort and they killed 40 Britishers and their family members who were living inside the fort. Tit for tat. If you kill Indians, you will also be killed. The rebels then declared Jhansi as an independent kingdom and proclaimed Rani Lakshmi Bai as its queen. So British officer Hugh Rose, now you have to understand who was the British in charge. Hugh Rose invaded Jhansi and Lakshmi Bai was forced to leave Jhansi. So now Lakshmi Bai have to leave Jhansi because huge British army led by Hugh Rose had come to Jhansi. So Rani Lakshmi Bai was joined by Tatya Tope, and together they marched to Gwalior and captured it, because in Gwalior also there was a Maratha family ruling, Maratha family of Sindhyas. So they had a great fort, Gwalior fort. So Tatya Tope and Rani Lakshmi Bai, they went to Gwalior. Gwalior and Jhansi are like, I would say, 60 kilometers away. So they are neighboring kingdoms. So they went and captured the fort because they wanted a fort to fight the British. They cannot fight on the streets. So fierce fighting followed, where the Rani of Jhansi was killed in June 1858. So finally, Rani of Jhansi, Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi was not killed at Jhansi. She was killed at Gwalior. Who killed her? Obviously the British killed her, but she was betrayed by the Sindhya family of Gwalior because they did not allow Rani Lakshmi Bai to take shelter in the fort. So Gwalior was then recaptured by the British. The next important revolt center was Ara. So Ara, Bihar. So Ara is present in Buxar district, today's Buxar district of Bihar. The rebellion in Bihar was led by Kunwar Singh. So Kunwar Singh was nearly 80 80 years of age when he is Kunwar Singh. He was very old, almost 80 years of old, when he took charge of the sepoys who rebelled at Danapur cantonment. What is cantonment? Cantonment is a place where soldiers are kept. So how did the mutiny start? Mutiny was started by soldiers only. So there were many cantonments all over India. So one such cantonment was at Danapur cantonment. Danapur is very near to Patna, almost like 15 kilometers away. So Danapur cantonment also had large number of Indian soldiers. So these Indian soldiers also revolted. They said that, okay, we will also kill Britishers. So what they did, they sent a message to the nearest king. The nearest king was King Kunwar Singh. He was the king of Jagdishpur near Danapur. So Kunwar Singh and his 10,000 troops. So all these Indian soldiers of Danapur cantonment, they said that from today onwards, Kunwar Singh is our leader. He is our king. Whatever he will say, we will do. So together, they had like 10,000 soldiers. So it was a big army kind of thing. So Kunwar Singh and his 10,000 soldiers captured Ara district for more than 2 months. British officer Major Vincent Eyre took Ara back. Vincent Eyre. So Ara was near Jagdishpur. He was the king of Jagdishpur. So he also captured Ara. But Ara is taken back by British again with the help of Major Vincent Eyre. So Eyre's troop also ransacked Jagdishpur. So if this is Jagdishpur, this is Ara. So he was the king of Jagdishpur and he captured Ara. But when Britishers arrived, Britishers managed to capture both these states. So if Britishers captured Jagdishpur also, so Kunwar Singh have to run away from Jagdishpur. So Singh continued guerrilla warfare against British for almost a year. Once, while crossing river Ganga, he was shot in his arm. He immediately cut off his arm and dropped in river Ganga. You can see. So when British soldiers hit him in his arm, he thought that if I will not take the bullet out, my entire body will be poisoned and I will die in hours. Because bullets were poisonous if allowed to remain inside body. So he cut his hand and together with the bullet and threw it in river Ganga. So he was that passionate, he was that brave. In March 1858, Kunwar Singh occupied Azamgarh, which is present in today's modern day Uttar Pradesh. He later captured his hometown of Jagdishpur because Jagdishpur was captured by Eyre Kut. So Major Vincent Eyre. So now he takes back his hometown. So you can see he's doing too much of damage. First he captured Ara, then he captured Azamgarh, and now he is taking back Jagdishpur. So you can say he was successful in defeating British army many times. But finally, the British led by Captain Lee Grant defeated Kunwar Singh. The British led by Captain Lee Grant were defeated. So while he was trying to capture his hometown of Jagdishpur, he fought the battle against Lee Grant. So he successfully captured Jagdishpur because Lee Grant was defeated. But while trying to capture Jagdishpur, he was badly wounded and died a few days later. So this is the story of Veer Kunwar Singh, brave Kunwar Singh. The next important center of revolt was at Faizabad. Faizabad is near Lucknow. So Maulvi Ahmadullah of Faizabad was another outstanding leader of the revolt. He was a native of Madras where he had started preaching armed rebellion. In January 1857, Maulvi Ahmadullah moved towards the north to Faizabad. So he was actually from Madras. He had moved to Faizabad, where he fought a large-scale battle against a company of British troops sent to stop him from preaching sedition. So why was he moving from Madras to Faizabad? Because he wanted to inspire more and more people. He used to give speeches and he used to ask people to join the revolt. So the British wanted to kill him. That's why Britishers were following him. And finally the battle took place in Faizabad. Because he was not a native of Faizabad, he had come from Madras, he was moving towards North India, and he happened to meet the Britishers at Faizabad. So where he fought a large scale battle against company of British troops sent to. So after the defeat at Lucknow, so because Faizabad is near Lucknow, so it is also known as, that time it was almost like Awadh. So after the defeat at Lucknow, he led the rebellion in Rohilkhand, where he was treacherously killed by the British. So you don't have to remember all these stories. You remember the name of the place and the name of the leader. Only this much will help you. Now revolt at Lucknow. So Lucknow was the capital of Awadh. Begum Hazrat Mahal, one of the Begums of the king of Awadh, took up the leadership of the revolt. So just remember the name of the place and name of the leader. So Lucknow, who was the leader? Begum Hazrat Mahal. Who was Hazrat Mahal? She was the wife of ex-king of Awadh. Awadh was annexed by doctrine of lapse. So what were the reasons of failures of the revolt of 1857? We obviously know that the revolt failed because revolt occurred in 1857 and we got freedom in 1947, 90 years later. So obviously this was a failure. So Bahadur Shah, so what were the reasons of failure? Bahadur Shah had grown old and weak, so that's why he was unable to lead. Limited territorial spread. So you can see some limited places. You will not hear that anything happened at Calcutta or anything happened at, let's say, Odisha. Not much happened at these places. So limited territorial spread, mostly North India. So most parts of India remained more or less unaffected. Many big zamindars supported Britishers because they were appointed as zamindars by Britishers, so their loyalty was not towards their country, it was towards the British. Modern educated Indians viewed the revolt as backwards looking because these modern educated Indians, they thought that Britishers are here to make us civilized, and they also thought that violence is not the answer to British. So that's why they had no sympathy for the people who were participating in the revolt of 1857. The Indian soldiers were poorly equipped materially. They were mostly fighting using swords, horses, whereas the Britishers had sophisticated weapons. They also have the advantage of telegraph. There was no telephone back that time. So telegraph means what? A message from Calcutta could reach Delhi within 2 to 3 hours. But can a horse reach? No. Horse will take 2 to 3 days. So, the Britishers were better equipped. The revolt was poorly organized with no central leadership of coordination. If somebody asks you who was one person who was controlling the entire revolt, there was no such person who was controlling the revolt. People were, jumping into the revolt and they were taking their own decisions. For example, Kunwar Singh had no contact with Lakshmi Bai. Lakshmi Bai had no contact with Bahadur Shah Jafar. So it was not well coordinated. There was no central leadership. The revolt lacked a clear understanding of the British rule and was poorly prepared. Because the people who participated in the revolt, they underestimated the British power. They thought that, okay, if a few revolt takes place here and there, the British can be uprooted. So that was not the case. The Britishers were much stronger than these people thought them to be. So what were the immediate impact of revolt? Obviously, this revolt shook the British Empire. British never expected that such a large-scale revolt can take place. So when the revolt was suppressed, after that the British were compelled to think that why did such a thing happen? And what if this happens again? So the Britishers took a few steps. The first step was Government of India Act 1858. So under this act, the rule of East India Company was abolished and British Parliament had taken direct responsibility towards ruling India. So all the blame of misgovernance and all the blame of revolt was put on the soldiers of East India Company. It was a company after all, which was trying to behave like a government. But now the British Parliament said that okay, enough is enough. From today onwards, the proper British government sitting in London will take care of the affairs of India. You mind, or from today onwards, you have no business ruling India. So East India Company was abolished and British Parliament took over. The East India Company was, after that, was just a trading organization. All its power was snatched. The role of the Governor General became more pronounced and his profile was now counted as the Viceroy as well. So an additional in charge of Viceroy was made additional in charge of Viceroy. Viceroy means you have military powers as well, more powers. The difference between Governor General and Viceroy was that the Viceroy would act as the representative of the Queen. See, this Governor General and all this was started by East India Company. But now Britishers are taking control. So Britishers introduced a new position of Viceroy. So the difference between Governor General and Viceroy was that the Viceroy was the representative of the Queen of Britain. And the Governor General was the representative of British Parliament, whose authority was restricted to that of British India itself and not on princely states. Please understand. So if this is India, so there were few places which were princely states and there were other places which were totally under control of British East India Company. So those places which were totally under control of British East India Company, Governor General was in charge of that. What about the remaining portions of India? So entire India was controlled by Britain. So Britain said that Viceroy is the in charge of all country, whereas these territories captured by East India Company, the Governor General was in charge for that. But now both the persons are same. It was just a, you can say, matter of distinction in positions. The Board of Control, which was established under the 1784 Split India Act, was abolished. So what was Board of Control? Board of Control used to look after the political affairs of East India Company. So now that was abolished because East India Company is only abolished. A new ministry was created known as India House, headed by Secretary of State for India, who was a minister of cabinet rank. So this India House was created in London, not in India. Because now the company is gone. British Parliament wants to control India. How are they going to do? For that, they appointed a new minister whose position was Secretary of State for India. There were 15 advisors to India House who had wide experience of working in India. So thus, the British Parliament was trying to create a mechanism to avoid any further chances of revolt. How? Because now you take advice, you take feedback from people who are living in India. So you don't take rash decision to anger Indian population. The India House was the apex body to govern India and was a connecting link between the British Parliament and the Indian governing system.